First and foremost, they said my name, y'all clapped. I don't really know how to take that. I'm not a celebrity. I'm just a black man living in America who suffered just like every other black man living in America, except that I've been suffering from it for almost 70 years, because that's how long I've been alive. And everything that's been said tonight and will be said tomorrow and in the future until America changes, or rather, as Ashanti said, until we change it, it'll be the same thing. Black men, poor people, marginalized people suffering at the hands of America. I want to do something a little different, and this is by no stretch of the imagination, because some of the names that has been kicked out here tonight, I know them personally, shared some cells with them, and we'll get to that point in a minute. Walk the yard with some of them. But we seem to put a celebrity tag to political prisoners. And I think because of that, we don't do the work to get them out of the penitentiary. Because we have elevated them to a status somewhere else, when all of them are black men, black women, white women that are suffering just like you sitting in them chairs here tonight, suffering. So stop that pedestal bullshit and recognize the fact that they are men and women who have in fact been tortured by this system, that we are walking around enjoying our life out here when we should be angry as hell that they got our brothers and sisters still locked up. But we want to hear that nice words of encouragement from them because they have this status in our heads. Another trick of the system. They trick us all the time, man. We need to learn from our mistakes. Ashanti talked about it. We need to learn from our mistakes. David talked about it. And we need to be very honest and very transparent about who we are and what we're doing. I heard the name David Gilbert prior to this event and prior to Dan giving me that book, but I had never read anything. So I ain't going to walk up here tonight and tell you that me and Dave is cool. Right? But the ideas that Dave holds, we cool. You understand that? I did read his book after he gave it to me. And there's a couple of passages that I marked off that I want to share. But first and foremost, you need to know a little bit about me. Because not everybody should be standing in front of you running their mouth. Because not everybody is really in a position to do that. There are theorists, people that do philosophy, analytical people, but you don't need to hear from them. You need to hear from soldiers. Shantae's a soldier.
Right, that's right.
I'm Muslim. I'm Mujahid. The Arabic term means that I rumble. I'm a soldier. I waged the war. Now, I wasn't born waging the war. I was born suffering because I'm a black man in America. But at the age of 15, in this fair city of Philadelphia, PA, I got introduced to racism in the boldest way possible. Philadelphia's finest. Two of them, tall, redhead, redneck police, accosted me on the streets, Southwest Philadelphia, and tried to kill me. I didn't have no dope in my pocket. I hadn't robbed nobody. I didn't have a gun. I hadn't stole a car. I was out after curfew. I was out after curfew. Now, you see the beard, so you know I've been around a minute. Okay? So back then, the argument that's being waged now to try to stop this new curfew, that was old hat then. I was a kid. You had to be in your house a certain time of night or the police would roll on you. And they rolled on me this night. And I actually was trying to obey the law. I was on my way home, leaving the party early. I'm a young black boy now. Me leaving the party early is something. in and of itself. But I'm conscious of the police. So I left the party early, trying to get home. These lames ambushed me. It wasn't enough that they accosted me, threw me in the car, beat me up. I'm a young dude. I'm a street. You understand? I'm from 62nd and Vine. That's the moon. Y'all know about the moon. All right? So I ain't no punk. Even though I'm small in stature at the time, because I'm a kid, I fought back. And they beat me senseless. Threw me in the back of the car, took me to 55th and Pine, for those of y'all live in Southwest Philly, same old racist joint, ain't nothing changed. But this is the amazing thing about it. After they beat me like that, drug me out of the car, I can hardly move now. I mean, I'm seriously hurt. I hear this scream, this old woman saying, "Oh my God, don't kill him!" I mean, it was the loudest scream I ever heard. And somehow I looked up and the police was pulling a gun out of his holster. I don't know how I gathered the strength, but I did. And I rushed her. Bright light, I didn't even hear the shot. And when I woke up, I was in the hospital. They were sewing me all up. This dude tried to kill me, man, for being out after curfew. During the whole course of that beatdown, they was talking all that racist shit. You know, black animal, what are you doing out here, boy? I mean, that whole dialogue was two of them. You understand? So that was my introduction to racism. 15 years after being into this world, I had recognized all the other little things that was happening. I couldn't go certain places, you know. My mom was afraid walking me downtown, and white dudes come, she would pull me over to the side to make sure I didn't get in their way. You know, but I didn't know no political connection to that stuff. I didn't know how to deal with that. But that day, that night, I became a revolutionary. You understand? I always could fight, but I didn't have the right reason to fight. They introduced me to the right reason to fight. And because of that, I ain't young like Josh, so I can't memorize all this stuff. But I've been writing poetry since 1968. Rage and redemption. How different are these two forces in our lives? One speaks about forgiveness and calmness and setting things right. The other is engulfed in horror and death and chaos in the night. Somebody tell me, can these two things coexist? The answer is yes. The two are in me, no matter how hard I resist. You see, living a full life is far different these days. There's a battle within the average soul, struggling in many ways. Now, how can I show you, or tell you, or explain to you so you'll really understand? Well, I could share the story of the average black man. He's born into a dysfunctional and broken home. He is raised believing he has nothing of his own. He refuses to grow up in order to face the world. He hides his frustrations and inabilities by deception, using twists and twirls. He believes aggressive as he seeks to establish his life. He lashes out, bringing sorrow and pain as if it's his own God-given right. He has ambition, but it goes unfulfilled. He shows his proudness by deciding to kill and kill and kill. He experiences regret, but knows not how to show it. He wants to stop, but believes he may be a victim to it. And every now and then, his mother comes to mind. And sometimes he cries for the family he left behind. Now, this is not the story, Now, this story is not the legacy of every black man. However, it is the blueprint laid out by society's master plan. Some men manage to avoid it or cope with it and become successful and great. Some men get caught up in it and learn nothing but hate. Hate leads to rage, followed by pain and suffering and heartache and much debate. This eventually leads to redemption and regret and sometimes sorrow. But it's always a little too late. The very difficult part of this prophetic refrain is life has been lost and somebody is in pain. And whether it's caused by rage or redemption, we would never be the same. I'm assuming I got that extended 10 minutes right there. I did read this book, and I was really impressed by several things that David Gilbert shared in it. And one of the profound things I was impressed was his honesty. There were several places in this book where he was really honest about who he was, the conditions of the struggle in the time period that is covered, and it's covered during that time period of the 60s, leading into the 70s, etc. I also understood the dilemma that he was facing. A young white man talking about fighting a revolution in this country that's really addressing the issues of black people. Okay? That's not an easy task. First and foremost, I can think back how you were not accepted. And I'm saying you because I'm looking in this room and the vast majority of people in this room is white people. And I can think back to time periods when you were coming to a meeting and people were looking, what the fuck you know about telling me what to do on this fight? So that's a struggle that he went through and he experienced, and I loved his honesty in sharing that type of thing throughout the book in many different ways. I want to read one part first, and I'm sorry if I'm really taking up too much time. I ain't really sorry though. It talks about black education. It says, after Black Power became a popular slogan, people tried a new strategy, community control. The idea was for the black community to supervise their schools to ensure that their children receive a relevant, respectful, and quality education in their own neighborhoods. Despite strong community support, this program was smashed through the combinations of a frontal attack led by the teachers union and a sophisticated co-option effort to create essential powerless community boards led by Ford Foundation. And in 1968, during the height of the struggle, this teachers union called a teachers strike in direct opposition to community control. There's another part of that I wanted to read, but again, I'm not trying to really be greedy with time. The point I'm getting to is that this is some 50 some odd years ago. It's the same crap we're talking about now. It's the same thing that we out in the street with incarcerated PA talking about schools, not prisons. Talking about the school to prison pipeline. Talking about we need to make sure that teachers are qualified and teaching our children in the way they should be. This is 50 years later, y'all. Ain't y'all ashamed that the same damn thing being argued 50 years ago, we're arguing now and there's no change? Come on. Something we're not doing right. There's something we are not doing right. 50 years making the same argument and nothing has changed. We need to rethink our strategy. We need to get rid of all those things that divide us and take into effect and use the things that unite us. I'm a Muslim. I've been a Muslim since 1968. I know for a fact, and I've studied hard in Islam, if you was to say, what are you doing hanging out with a gay person? To the average Muslim, they would want to harm you. That's the nonsense that I'm talking about. People are people. It matters not what your choices are in life, because I'm not the one that you're going to stand in front of when you leave here and stand judgment over you. That ain't my job. My job is to make sure that the community that I live in and the world that I live in is one that everyone is safe in. That's my job. My job is to make sure every child can walk down the street and don't have a fear that they're going to be harmed or snatched or raped or all that crazy crap. My job is to make sure that the old woman feels secure in her own home at night. That's my job. My job is to make sure that racism ends in America. Thank you.